It's a landslide. Britain's Conservatives have won their biggest majority since 1987, and Boris Johnson will take the country out of the European Union by the end of January. The pound has surged, yet the details of a trade deal will take many, many months to thrash out, according to Europe's negotiator Michel Barnier. Perhaps years. The shape of Britain's relationship with its main trading partner is still unclear. How should investors think about Britain and Europe now? Time for Cool Heads.
Get Brexit done.
Mr. Speaker.
No ifs, no buts.
Please. The Prime Minister.
Do not waste this time.
Hello, I'm joined by multi-asset manager Charlotte Harrington and UK equity manager Aruna Karunathilake. Welcome to you both. What a night. Aruna, markets were expecting a Conservative majority, but not quite like this. So what's the impact been?
I think the fact that from a market perspective that we have such a large Tory majority means the Prime Minister now has the ability to push through whatever policy on Brexit he wants to push through. He doesn't have to placate people on the right of his party as much as he would have had to. So I think we've just got more certainty that the government can get its withdrawal bill through.
And certainty is usually good for markets, doesn't it? That old cliche. So let's have a look at sterling, I think we've got first of all. And there you can see the exit poll at 10 o'clock last night. That's pretty dramatic, that improvement in sterling.
Yes, and I think that's partly the result, but partly also the size of the majority that's driving that optimism.
Okay, and then let's move to the FTSE 250. So this is companies with much more of a UK focus. And again, talk us through what happened there.
So the FTSE 250 is a better index to look at because 2/3 of its profits comes from the UK. So this really is a barometer of the market's view on the UK. And again, just like the currency, the market thinks what happened yesterday is a good thing for the UK economy.
Okay, Charlotte, that actually was certainly intraday. It's an all-time high for the FTSE 250. Do you think this optimism is going to carry on? Where will markets go from here?
I think in the short run it is a positive, and it's being taken as a positive and probably will continue to do that for a while. But there is still quite a big unknown out there, which is, yes, there's this sort of optionality for the Conservatives to tack a bit more towards the central side of the sort of Brexit debate, but we don't actually know that they will, and he's won on the mandate of what is quite a hard Brexit. So I'd be inclined to fade that rally as we go through next year.
Okay, and what about the weight of investment that has stayed away from the UK, Aruna? Is this the signal now for investors to come back in? What are you sensing?
Well, a lot of surveys looking at investor positioning shows that the UK underweight is as large as it's ever been. And just anecdotally, we're seeing more interest from potential investors, but they're yet to push the button. So maybe this will be the event that takes one or two of them just to take those steps. But as Charlotte said, I think we'll all breathe a sigh of relief for a while, but next year we'll be coming back and looking at what Boris Johnson and this government wants in its negotiations with the EU.
So does that mean, Charlotte, it's too early to say what the opportunities are or what the risks might be if these negotiations drag on?
I think the risks are probably relatively well known, and I think it's one of the reasons why investors have stayed away from the UK. We've got a bit closer to something that feels a bit more certain, but probably aren't quite there yet. I guess the other angle to bring into this is also the UK economy and the fundamentals in the UK economy, which have been really very soft this year. The central bank have looked as if they are moving towards a more easing bias, and this might actually give them the confidence to do that. But beyond that sort of short term, I'm not sure that this is a sort of a new enormous re-acceleration in the UK economy, given that we still have negotiations to do with Europe.
You mentioned central banks, but what if the emphasis is moving now from monetary policy to fiscal policy? Because certainly the Conservatives were pledging some pretty impressive spending.
If you look at the numbers, actually, I don't think the fiscal spending is that big from the Conservative Party. Everyone thought it was going to be huge, but when it actually came out, it really wasn't that big. That said, it's not contractionary fiscal. The direction of travel is positive, but it's nothing like the magnitudes of something like a Labour government, for example. So in summary, just looking at the UK, Aruna, what do you think then that the next year or two, or is it 5, if they make it all the way through a parliament, what do you think that means in terms of investment?
So I'm positive on the UK. I think we've had 3 years of uncertainty, which is now going to reduce. So in the team, we're looking at beneficiaries of a stronger UK economy, whether that's housing related, whether it's the beneficiaries of infrastructure spend that the government has promised. So we're looking at companies that are involved in construction, providing the materials for construction, because we think after several years of inactivity, things are likely to move off the bottom.
And finally, putting the UK into an international context, Charlotte, how attractive is it if you look at the other options that you can play with around the world?
Yeah, so I think from a short-term perspective, there's a good argument for the UK given where valuations had got to. But again, it's all very path dependent from here. As we look into 2020 and when we think about the opportunity set more widely, a lot's going to come down to central bank policy as well as stimulus out of China and whether or not we can really get a more meaningful global upswing.
Okay, well, thank you both very much indeed. I'm afraid that's all that we've got time for. My thanks to today's cool heads, Charlotte Harrington and Aruna Karunathilakin. Until next time, thank you for watching and goodbye.